during the live stream talking about career pivot. Let me introduce Sophie a little bit. She used to be the head of performing arts. Now make transition to associate developer. Well, she was doing arts in 13 years. Then she decided to make career pivot. And after 9 months, she started coding stuff and landed the first role in tech at Sky. So welcome, Sophie.
Hello, welcome, and thank you very much for having me today.
So it just feels so lucky and place to have you here because I feel like your experience seems to be so amazing. Um, I never could imagine people could do do the same industry things, then transition to another industry. I just found it's impossible because you used to do lots of arts, then make transition to coding. I found quite totally different thing you're doing now. From what you used to do. So I really got lots of questions ready for this live stream.
Amazing, fire
Yeah.
away.
Wow. Yeah. So some of the questions might from my personal perspective, and some of them would be from me as a recruiter's perspective. So, yeah, how is you're happy for that?
Yeah, yeah.
The
I'll
fir-
get sit
yeah,
I'll get comfortable, and yeah, ask away.
great. I suppose my first question would have been, how does this career change make you feel now since you've been associate developer for a year?
Good question. So yeah, first of all, it's almost like why didn't I do this sooner? like,
Yeah.
I really, really do kind of enjoy being in my role. Um, just like looking at things day to day compared to when I was teaching. I'm when I say happier, I'm more content. When I say I'm loving life, I've got a good balance between being when I say working, but then also enjoying life outside of work. Whereas that definitely wasn't there before. And I love being part of the tech community. Everybody is really friendly and helpful and genuinely wants to help give you advice and support. And as a result of that, I'm part of these amazing communities, which are filled with like amazing role models, people who I inspire to be like, and also are there and want you to succeed as well. It's just a wonderful community. So yeah,
Well, that sounds
loving it.
fantastic. You did get lots of helpful people around you when you did coding stuff. What made you think of career changing when you were good at your previous roles? Well, 13 years is not a short time.
It's not a short time, no. And I suppose, in an absolute nutshell, it's all down to unrealistic expectations. Um, and essentially, I was on the way to burnout, like very much going that way. I absolutely loved being in the actual classroom and teaching, but there's so much paperwork, admin outside of the classroom that just starts to weigh everything down. And it was one that I just couldn't handle it in the sense that um, I felt like I was letting my team down. There's a lot of goodwill expected. So, oh yeah, you'll do this on goodwill rather than actually, no, we'll pay you, or actually we'll provide time for you to do this. And there's a lot of expectations, both like from senior management, but like parents coming in. Like sometimes it's like, oh, I sent you an email and you haven't got back to me within 5 minutes, and you're like, oh,
Well, it
yeah,
sounds so
okay.
stressful. Yeah.
Yeah, so that there was such a lot of different things that you came away each day just feeling like a constant failure. And I tried to rework systems. So I'm a very reflective person, and I'm very much like, let's make this work. I can make this work. And after 13 years, I was like, I've got to say no now. I've got to make a change, because staying in this role is not going to change.
Yeah, well, so I believe like one day we won't have chance to, I won't have the chance to meet you as my art teacher or a music teacher. So, yeah, that's kind of shame. I hope I can learn something from you in terms of arts perspective.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I just got a comment from one of the LinkedIn users. Sounds exactly like the NHS where I work. Well, sounds pretty stressful, isn't it?
I think unfortunately it is one of those, unfortunately, like there's such lack of funding in place, and it's one, the pressure is then put on you as a person, because like people who go to work, they generally want to do a good job, and like you've got your heart and soul in there, but then that's almost like taken for granted as well, and it's like, oh, they'll do this because they're so driven. And unfortunately, yeah, there's people just burning out left, right, and center, and it's absolutely heartbreaking because there's also an incredible amount of talent that is leaving both education, and I would say exactly the same for the NHS as well. And so they're losing out as a result.
Yeah, I can feel the same way. I'm happy that Sky got a new talent. That you are for them. Um, I then assume you got a lot of challenges during the journey of coding stuff. It wasn't about totally self-taught, right? It's just like you got support from the community, you got communicate to other people, like maybe about coding stuff, maybe about like some support physical as well, I suppose, because yes, I don't think it's an easy thing to do.
It's certainly not. And I suppose one of my biggest challenges that I faced constantly was pace, and kind of writing your first line of code and then getting a job role in 9 months does not happen without some type of pace in between there. And when I first started, I started essentially like a taster session through Code First Skills, and I was like, "Oh, I really do like this." And then noticed they called it a Code First Skills degree, and it's like an intense boot camp over 13 weeks. And I was like, "Oh, I'd love to have a go at that opportunity." So I applied, and I was very fortunate to then get a place on this. And then when I started like reaching out to other people on my cohort and stuff, I was very quickly learning that some of them had a computer science degree. And I was like, oh, wow. And then other people were like, oh, yeah, I've been doing this hobby for a couple of years and now looking to make it more serious. And I'm there like, I literally wrote Hello World for the first time 3 months ago. And like, it was a very steep learning curve. So it was constant new information that I was needing to take on board and like get practicing. But what really helped was I ended up quitting my job to help me with this career change. So the hours outside of the course I could dedicate to further learning, to make sure that I was really understanding all the key terminology, the skills that they were presenting. But then on the other side, because I wasn't working, there was no money coming through. There was that pressure to like, this has to work as well.
Wow,
So yeah,
that sounds incredibly encouraging. I just feel like it's impossible for me
yeah,
um, to quit a job, then end up getting a new job in tech. But actually, you spent lots of time and energy. Well, I suppose you might feel sometimes a little bit like, oh my gosh, I don't really want to get through this conundrums. I just couldn't do that. I feel like
yeah.
must be have sort of moments, but how could you overcome that moment to make you feel a bit better, to get more motivation to move on?
I think it's one kind of looking back, I would actually change how I did it in the end, because there was many times where, because the boot camp was so remote, well, it was all through remote learning, you did feel quite isolated at times. And at that point, I hadn't built up a strong enough network to be kind of like, oh, like who could I just reach out to like, oh, can you just help me? Because yes, there was tutors, but they also had full-time jobs as well, so it was all taking place in an evening. Um, but I think the ultimate thing that kind of kept me going is that even though they weren't able to technically support me, I had a great kind of cheerleading network behind me. So people who were was kind of seeing some of the achievements I was making. So like my homeworks that were coming through were below like 90%. Like they were all kind of high marks coming through. And they were there just like, be confident in yourself, Sophie. You do know it, you're just not acknowledging sometimes that you know it, or you're thinking too deeply, or like they were there to kind of provide that kind of basis of support while I was there like, right, come on, I can do it.
Well, that's great. So that they were actually getting you to think from your perspective how you could do better, or how could you encourage yourself and to get
Mm,
more internal motivation and passion in terms of coding stuff in the future.
yeah.
Like, yeah, I feel like you were lucky kind of to get some great tutors. Well, so there's another question from the comment. I was lucky enough to be in a position to quit my job and go through training. The first week, I felt like it was an great mountain. 2 years later, I finally had success securing my title. All those little and big steps matter in your journey.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
And
unbelievable.
I think sometimes as well, and I'm almost going to when I say, quote the book Atomic Habits, and I think it's James Clear who wrote it. And when I read through that, there's so much that kind of opened up my eyes. But exactly what that said there. Sometimes those little things, like what can feel like just like 1% gains at the beginning, like as you go on through, like they start mounting up, mounting up, mounting up, that actually when you look behind and you're like, oh, this is what I've done, you're like, actually this is pretty awesome, I've been able to do so much. And it's sometimes we're quick to dismiss those little steps when actually they can be the most important ones.
Yeah. Would you keep doing sort of like daily journal to make sure you write down everything to keep yourself on track about the progress you made?
I do. I almost do it the opposite way a little bit. So, like in my work now, I do have a daily journal, but I write down like literally a sentence of what I've done each day. But what's then really handy with that, sometimes like when you come up to your performance reviews, often they can be conversations where you just focus on what you've done in like the last week or two because that's what's fresh in your mind. But then by looking over like like those one sentences that I've written every day over like the last 6 months or now coming up to the last 12 months, I'm like, oh, I can find all these different threads of information that when I did like my half review, I noticed that I'd done a lot of work on accessibility, making sure that the functions that we were putting the components that we were putting out for people to use were accessible by all users. But if someone had directly said to me, kind of like, how do you focus on accessibility? I might have been like, oh, I'm not sure. Or, but I kind of had the evidence like, no, I've done this and they've been tested by users. And actually, I had no feedback from that. But in the moment, I probably would have frozen. But you've got that kind of evidence to be like, oh, yeah, this is what I've done.
Oh,
So,
that sounds another way to record some stuff that really need to fix or really need to address immediately. That's
mm,
another way to do daily journal, I suppose.
yeah.
I would try to do the same because it seems like you made lots of progress. Then the only thing to fix is one, two, three.
Yeah.
Then after fixing that, you got lots of achievement inside. So yeah,
Yeah.
I feel great about it.
It's a good kind of reflective process as well, because I know sometimes goals are really important. I don't want to dismiss that, but sometimes it's good to reflect actually what you have been able to achieve and actually what you have done. Sometimes we do forget to look back.
Yeah, yeah. I suppose another question would be because you used to do lots of arts and music. For me, it seems zero relevant to what you're doing now. Like, like you used to do more like handwriting or painting or some stuff. But for coding, you always need to tap on keyboard and to make sure like you check everything.
Mm.
It's just like from last century to the modern century. Um, yeah, I just I don't understand. Like, how could you use your? Do you think you have any transfer skills from art, music to coding, or just like try to find out some skills you might have before that you can use now?
Well, to be fair, I feel like we could be here like for hours on end, but I will keep it short because there are so many transferable skills. And I think it's so easy, admittedly, to say that now that since I've moved across, than if you'd asked me a year ago, where I was still like in the middle of applying jobs, where I probably would like, I think they are. But now that I'm in the role, I'm like, boy, are they? There's so many. So I think one of the key things sometimes is being able to look from multiple perspectives. So, like as a teacher in a classroom, you've got 30 kids in front of you. You've got to be able to, when I say be able to look from their perspective in terms of like, right, I'm teaching this content, how are they going to receive it? But there's also then the next level where it's also about them connecting with each other and understanding like the psychology of behaviors and stuff. So when you then start to put that into coding, so the platform that I work on, we're like a website builder where kind of within Sky, someone can come to us and be like, oh, we would like a website, and they can then use like the components that we create, and then they can style it in their own version. So it's almost like a version of like Wix or Shopify, but Sky have got their own in-house built version. So we've got to think about actually how the editor's going to respond to this content. Are they going to be able to build it? Okay, what sort of challenges might they face? But then it's also, as well as that, once the editors put it out, are the users still going to be able to access this content? Is it still easy for them to navigate? Can they move around the different pages, the different components that we can create? Can they interact with them? So yes, for some people, you might be like, oh, you're just writing a piece of code, but that code has a ripple effect.
Right. You were thinking about website, building a website from a user's perspective instead of on your opinion, it seems like.
Yeah, because you've got to think about kind of both, yes, the audience that are going to use it, but we've also got like an extra layer where editors are also kind of building their website. So we've built what we call composable technology for them to use. But if it's not accessible for them, they're not going to use it. So what we've created then becomes pointless. So you kind of, it's looking at their perspectives on how they're going to use it.
Yeah.
But it's also then understanding like how people work as a team as well. So it's thinking about what can affect a team. Like within my role, like it's all about body language. Like people sometimes don't underestimate the power of body language and actually understanding what people are doing or actually how they're communicating. There's so much non-verbal communication that when you tap into it, it gives you such powerful information to use. So like when you're working in teams, somebody might not realize that what they're saying might actually have a detrimental effect. Like they might not have that intention, but it's also then being able to help them kind of say, oh, do you realize actually this, even though it wasn't the intention, this ended up being the outcome. But because like as a teacher, you are used to being in all those different situations and scenarios and managing people, and when I say also managing reactions, like that can become really powerful within a team as well. But then if I like look at my subject knowledge, my degree was in music, so my primary subject is music. I also did drama as well. But people are very much like, but music, it's so different. But I'm like, music is a language. As like you learn that language, as like you learn to read it, you learn to perform it, you can start to write it. And then once you get like a good grasp, as like you can create your own music. But I'm like, but what's then so different with coding? Like you learn to read code, then you learn to kind of write code. It's just learning like the structure and almost like how it speaks. It's just one language compared to like another language. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense to me. Just it just sounds totally amazing and impossible to achieve from your art to coding. I suppose you use lots of transfer skills. I heard you mention about listening to users' voice.
Mm,
I mean, their experience, their user experience is quite important because you need to build a website and they need to use them. If you build a website they couldn't use, seems like it's not really effective website.
mm,
You organize people and do team management, and you try to coordinate stuff between one department to another department, suppose.
yeah.
Because yeah, and most important thing because your interpersonal skills, you talk
Mm,
a lot during the team as well because you need to understand all people's perspective and make sure we're all on the same page. It
yeah.
seems like quite similar to what you used to do to teach students. They need to understand you, and also you need to understand how to do that step by
Mm.
step. Um, a great point from my friend Joe Wells. He just made comments on that. How different was your learning journey of art compared to coding?
Oh, now feel like I can't fully compare it. And the reason why I'm saying that is I started learning recorder from like the age of 6, 7. So I started like learning music like from a very young age. And so that stayed with me as I went through then school. I picked up flute, clarinet, saxophone. I was playing in orchestras, and then kind of went on to my degree and then went into education. So I feel like because like that's been 30 years of my life itself in terms of like how I've learned it, like it's been from a very young age, whereas coding has been literally the last 18 months of my life. Yeah. How different was learning the journey of art? I think I might have to come back to that one because I'm finding it very different to compare at the moment, purely just from a time basis. Whereas, say for example, I'd stepped into the art like in my 20s or something, I'd probably be able to compare it a little bit easier. Yeah, I think I'll need to come back to that one to and think in the background on how
Yeah,
best to answer
that,
that
that
question.
was kind of a bit of a challenging question to ask an art teacher. You are a natural artist, and why did you choose? Why did you choose to coding stuff after doing lots of years art?
But I suppose like like with coding there's like a lot of logic involved.
All right.
um but I would also say like art can also be filled like with logic, and like there's also a lot of creativity in art as well. I feel like it kind of encompasses both worlds. um yeah, no, I will come back to that question. I think
Yeah,
it's uh, to give it a more of a succinct answer.
let's go back later. But one of the similarity between us, because we are both female. But so that question would say, would you say that it may take more effort for female group to learn to code compared to male group? Kind of difference of how our brain works based on gender difference, I suppose.
It is an interesting question, that one, and um, I've seen a few other people kind of answer that question in different ways, and it's definitely not a straightforward one.
Yeah.
Taking First of all, taking gender completely out the role, and I'm also when I say going to take it that we're taking all other external factors away in terms of into whether you're a parent, whether you're a carer or anything like that. How I approach that question, it's very much I'm looking at kind of two people. I think initially taking gender out of it, we all have our own learning styles. And I think it's very important that we, first of all, get to understand what our learning style is so we know how best to support ourselves as we move forward. What works for one person is very different to another. I know particularly as I've gone into code, I'm very much a diagram person. When you start talking about like the flow of some of the code, the architecture, start talking words to me and there's this glaze that comes over. As soon as you start putting into a diagram, I'm like, I am with you on that one. But I know some people can very much, and this goes for both genders, can very much be like, oh no, I'm happy with just the words alone. But some people are like, no, I need that diagram as well. I think where the difference comes into place is actually to do with the question: at what point would a male or female feel confident in saying they've got this particular skill? And I'm going to give an out of context example. When I was doing some mentoring and applying for job roles, they were saying like there's evidence behind if you've got 10 bullet points for a job description. I might not say the exact right numbers, but like for a man, it might be if he might see 3 bullet points. Yeah, I can meet those 3. I will apply for the job. But for a woman, it's very much they feel like they need to fulfill 9 or even or 10 of those bullet points in order before to apply for that role. So there's like a confidence part. So bringing it back into the learning, say for example, they were learning a concept, and I'm just going to, it could be any concept itself. At what point in that learning would a male person say, yes, I'm confident with this? And at what point would a female person say, I'm confident with that? And I think it's within that question that the answer lies.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I suppose lots of I'm not sure it's because female or male people, but sometimes I do feel like some people, when they don't feel like can tick all boxes of this job description, they might just give up right away. But some
Yeah.
people just feel to a different way. They just want to give it a try anyway. They feel like there might be a chance for me to jump in, then get on a new career journey. So that'd be a good chance for opportunities for them to make career pivot or step up to the next role.
Mm,
Yeah, I feel like it might be a difference between female and male. Like
mm,
I wouldn't say they're all confident, but they can do with being confident to
yeah.
do something more than what we can do as female. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that is very much where somewhat of the answer lies, is more in that confidence side rather than um it's harder for us to do. I think it's more down to, yeah, it's more confidence and us acknowledging that actually we can do it.
Yeah, we got a different mindset anyway, so it really
Yeah.
depends. I suppose because you said you're a diagram person, I'm kind of like mind map person. Next time when I send you the LinkedIn message, I draw a diagram first, then have a conversation.
I love it.
Yeah, that'd be good. And my friend Joe Wells came out with another question. Awesome. Did you find yourself building coding projects to learn like making a song compared to using theory?
um Yeah, so I think both kind of help, but I think like anything, it's about getting that practice in place. So in terms of like the coding projects, because I was very quick to go onto like a coding boot camp, we had like small coding projects built in with that. So yes, you learn a bit of theory, but then it's almost like how can you put that theory in place? And then it's something that I've continued then to do because loads of people might have heard of it before, but there's like this 100 days of code that you can do. And to help kind of strengthen my knowledge, I've kind of put myself onto that, and I love something called front end mentor, which is all about kind of creating website pages, but they give you like the project ideas. They're like, this is what we want you to create. They don't give you like a code base for it. You've got to then go off and then create it yourself. And it's really good at then putting some of that theory into practice, because I think when it comes to your job roles, what kind of my understanding is that particularly when you're first new into career changing, is they want to see actually what are the projects that you've been building, what is it that you can do. Sometimes like we need them, but we fall into like this certificate trap where we're like, oh yeah, I've done this course, I've got this certificate, I've got this, and people are like, well, that's brilliant, but what can you do as a result now? And they want to be able to see, yes, that those projects that you've been working on, and if they're in groups, being able to talk about what it is that you did within that group.
Yeah. Wow. So you basically did lots of projects before you start your first role as Sky, I suppose.
I did two big projects through the boot camp. There was one big group project there at the end, and then I also got sponsored on a mobile app development through Code First Skills, and I was another group project within that. So they were my two main ones, but then I did have like some small stuff going in the background in terms of different coding questions, because there's things like code wars and leak code where they provide you kind of questions at different levels that could like appear in technical tests if you're going for job roles, or as like I use them now just purely just to build up your knowledge, because like anything, yes, you've done it once, but just because you've done it once doesn't mean you're going to remember it. You need to do it a couple of times over and over for it to really um, settle into memory.
Yeah, you still can keep practice until you feel like, okay, I mastered the skill.
Yeah.
All right, that's good. Fine.
And do
Oh,
you know what? That's another transferable skill straight away there from being a musician, because you practice and you practice. But say, for example, like you have, let's say, a 20 bar piece of music, you don't just keep practicing from bars 1 to bar 20. You might just look at bar 1 by itself, bar 2 by itself. You really start to hone it down. And it's exactly the same for coding. Like, you don't just attempt the big thing straight away. You start to
small pieces, small pieces.
yeah, and then build it up that way.
Yeah, well, that sounds realistic. That sounds realistic. Otherwise, feel like, oh my gosh, it's impossible to do things all at once.
Yeah.
Yeah, always step by step. Because I was a recruiter, I know like from sending CV to the recruiter, then getting interviews, another interview, then you might have the chance to land at your first role. So, how was your journey from really non-tech background to land out to land your first role at Sky? I suppose you must have lots of experience or like amazing stories. I can tell.
Oh, we'll see on that one. In terms of my experience, so yes, I did. I started off with like a taster session, a Kickstarter session with Python and apps, which got like the buzz for me to be like, oh yeah, I'm really enjoying this, and then got onto the CFG degree. Now, what was brilliant about the CFG degree was it really helped me upskill those tech skills. So understand what it is that I needed to be learning and what I needed to be practicing, and gave that good structure. However, like once I finished that, there was still this kind of mental mode, just like, okay, I've got this certificate and I can prove and I've done this course, but how do I bring that across to like a recruiter and say I'm worthy enough, like employ me. And I was again through somebody kind of sharing this itself, I got onto a mentoring program. So it's through a company called Kajigo, and they support women who are either looking to come in to go into the tech industry or looking to progress within it. And through that mentoring, it helped me then change my mental mindset. So it was through them that I learned about the difference between a woman and a man applying for a job role. And that actually, yeah, like there is that difference. Just because they were like, if you met all the criteria, the job is not suitable for you because you won't be challenged enough. And it just stuck in my head. And don't get me wrong, like I had failed attempts in jobs. I'd gone to a networking session and came across this wonderful academy, which again kind of put you through another 12 weeks of learning, but then you became a consultant for them and got talk. I was talking to so many people, and I left and I was just like, this is brilliant. Right, I'll go and apply for it. Got the tech test through, and my heart just sank because I just looked at the code and I was like, I don't get it. I don't understand it. I don't even get the purpose of this code. And like there was 4 different questions. And at that point, I was just like, what have I done? Just like have what I've just done in like the last 7 months just been a complete waste of time. But little did I know that in 3 weeks' time I would be getting offered a job. Now, I came across Sky was always kind of in my background of a company to work for. And I looked through their careers and I was like, I can't find any junior roles at all. But I noticed there was a developer role. So I thought, right, yes, I don't meet all the criteria, but what's the worst that can happen? So I put my application in and got an interview. And there was always the caveat that they were like, ideally, we're looking for more experience, but we're seeing what you can offer. So kind of had my first informal chat and stuff, and that went really well. And then the next stage was doing a tech test, an interview. And even though like my tech test wasn't the greatest, like I came away and just like, oh, I could have done better. What was really good, I was able to talk through what I was trying to achieve and stuff. And it really was like a good 2-way conversation. Now, at the end of it, they were like, I had been unsuccessful in that role, but they were like, we would like to offer you a different role that is more suitable for your tech expertise at this point in time, where we can support you with that. And I was like, yes, please. And that's essentially how I got my job. So I essentially went for a different job that was advertised, and got one that hadn't been advertised at that point.
Well, that's definitely answers questions about building confidence. And
Yeah.
I suppose initially didn't recognize, although you couldn't tick all the boxes, you might not get the role. Then they actually made this role for you.
Yeah, yeah. So I think, like sometimes I have to stop saying, "Oh, I got lucky," because I think that's also something, particularly as females, sometimes we're all like, "Oh yeah, we got lucky, we got lucky." But actually, if I hadn't have created that opportunity in terms of just applying for the job role, then that outcome would never have happened. And it is sometimes having that confidence and thinking, "Right, let's go for it. What's the worst that could happen?" And then actually, I had an even better result come through.
There's also some mindset I should learn from you as well. Because most of the time I feel like, "Oh, okay, I need to tick all the boxes." Previously, when I applied to different jobs, I need to tick all the boxes. Then I found, okay, maybe I can match my skill, or I can use my transfer skills like sales or
Mm.
something to be a professional recruiter. I believe I can. I think I'm still going on that way. Um, that's kind of good mindset I can learn from you. And also, although previously you wanted to apply to a junior developer, then since you've been there for a year,
Yeah.
no, yeah, yeah, I think you're you can really at the position you wanted to apply to previously.
Mm. So I think it was absolutely the right decision in terms of, say for example, they had put me in that developer role, like I would have drowned, because even though I've got a very strong set of what's deemed as soft skills, in terms of like your interpersonal skills, and I can bring a lot of value that way. The um, the lack of technical skills at that point, and being able to maybe even help others and be more confident in what I was doing would not have been there at all. And yeah, it could have been something where I might have even left tech. I don't know, but yeah, it was definitely the best outcome.
Yeah, it would be difficult to imagine like what if you haven't applied to that job, then you might not getting another really junior developer, but I maybe take you a bit long time
Yeah.
to get that role.
And it was something where, when I say I was quite particular in terms of what I applied for, I think maybe from just age and years of experience, kind of knowing that I've been in jobs where I wasn't happy, um, it was kind of looking at what do the companies, what are their values. And there are a lot of graduate job opportunities as well, but I was quite cautious because I know you can get tied in for a couple of years. And even though I was like, they'll also kind of help provide like good insight within different businesses, I was also like, if I don't enjoy it, I'm tied into that as well. And yeah, it's trying to be sensible in what I was applying for as well, instead of just being like, someone hire me.
Yeah, well, I would just say, yeah, I kind of feel the same way because when I look at your LinkedIn profile, like more than half of the pages shows like you were doing arts and music. Then all of a sudden, a few months coding training, including your self-taught things, then you turn to do associate developer at Sky.
Mm.
It's just like, oh, it looks so brilliant. It really catches my eye. Any point. So,
Thank you.
ideally, what is your next goal in terms of career path?
Um, I don't have like a strict next goal in terms of like I must achieve this. But how I'm kind of moving forward is still focusing on developing, strengthening, I should say, my developer skills, and really getting confident in both front end and also back end skills itself. But then also being an advocate for women in tech as well. So I do have like lots of people reach out to me, just kind of say, yeah, how have you done it? Can you provide any advice? And it's helping some people where like I career changed at the age of 36, and some people feel like, oh, it's too late even by that point to career change. And it's like, no, actually, I promise you that you are still able to. Like you can still career change it up to a lot older as well. And like, yeah, it's open to anybody, but you sometimes you feel like you're so closed off that, oh, that's never achievable. So it's about kind of advocating for women and trying to be like a role model for them as well, and like help and provide opportunities for them to access tech, as well as I do teaching now for Code First Skills to also help inspire women into the tech industry as well. So it's kind of continuing with that as well. So not a strict set goal, but it's just kind of strengthening what I've started to build already.
Yeah, that's kind of the real role model because you got benefits from the community. Then actually you started contributing your own knowledge, experience, and your spirit to the community.
Yeah,
As return is really brilliant. So they would feel like it's not impossible to make career pivot from maybe from art, from music, or
mm,
even from plumber, any industry to the things really want to strive for. That sounds brilliant.
yeah. It is. It's just finding those like those transferable skills and being able to acknowledge what they are so that you can then sell them, because everybody has really good skills that they're able to transfer across.
Everybody has advantages that they haven't found yet, or they
Yeah,
found it, they haven't known how to use it for the next step.
yeah, yeah.
That's good. That's a great takeaway, actually. Well, speaking of takeaway, what points would you like to make for people who might think of career pivot as well in their future's career?
Um, so I think my first thing, I think whenever you talk about career change, it's the fear, it's the
Yeah.
unknown. And I came across this quote not so long ago, and it's something I regularly reflect on all the time now. And the quote is, when was the last time you did something for the first time? So, when was the last time you did something for the first time? And it's all about how you push yourself out of those comfort zones. Like we can all sometimes stay with what we know, because you might not necessarily be happy, but it's more comfortable because you know it. And sometimes it's just being able to push past that initial comfort zone and think, oh, what could be? Okay, if I did this, what could change? And yeah, it's just all about don't shut off new experiences. So that would definitely be my first key takeaway. When was the last time you did something for the first time? Um, my next one, kind of going back to the transferable skills, being able to really reflect on what it is that you've got to offer. Because, yes, we're talking about, I've been talking about like a tech role with coding, but there's also many tech roles that don't require coding. Um, but it's also, there's so many skills that can be taken over. Like something I really enjoy listening to is Squiggly Careers. So they do like a podcast each week, and it's kind of focusing on like, actually, what are these skills that you're able to take around with you? Yes, the job role might change, but those skills you can continue like strengthening and developing. And sometimes it's really hard to recognize that within ourselves. So this brings me on to my third point, which is build your network of support. Okay. Have people who are going to cheerlead you all the way. Have people who will sit down with you with your CV, or will tell you that these good things about you, because it is hard to recognize them in yourself, or sometimes you're afraid to shout out about it and need that confirmation. So it's having someone going like, oi, yeah, no, get this down because you're absolutely fabulous and they need to know about this. It's having people who will open those doors of opportunity for you and be like, are you aware of this opportunity? Or maybe like I never knew about Code First Skills until someone posted on saying, "Oh, I career changed through Code First Skills," and I was like, "Oh, that's amazing." And that's what kind of was the start of my journey. If someone hadn't posted that, I might not even be speaking to you today in terms of my journey. I could have gone, well, I could be like a couple of months behind. I could be in a very different position. So it's having that network of support around you, whether it's mentoring, cheerleading, someone who inspires you. You might never have spoken to them, but you're inspired by what they do, and these they'll kind of help you drive through in your career change.
Well, those are great points. I feel like I need to note it down as well. But actually, I was noting it down. For first one, my takeaway would be like we need to get out of the comfort zone, as you mentioned. Is like what sort of skills we could master is next few weeks. Is this possible? Because it only took you 9 months to
Mm,
learn a new tech role, which sounds impossible to me, but you made it. It's really impossible to me. So seems like we need to check what sort of skills we can master in next few weeks, months, or year. Just need have a clear goal, maybe, or even just we don't really have a clear target. We can try to learn something new. It may
mm,
cultivate our brain as well. Like you're a diagram person, maybe some person would be like mind map person. We have different preference in terms of memory stuff and use our different logics to do things. Um, and also like what we can offer not only about job description, what else we can offer apart from the skills or qualification they required,
mm.
because sometimes people may their qualification may match the job description, then they may find it's really difficult or challenging for them to take action based on things that they learned.
Yeah.
So we need to have very solid skills based on the theory. uh, and it seems a network plays very important role for all of us, like especially because you came to join that code first skill. I suppose it's code first skill community.
Mm,
Then it helped you a lot. So it reminds us that we cannot only rely on like fundamental knowledge from the book, notebook, library, online resources. We need to build a network, talk to people, don't always want to just stick on the screen, then spend the whole day.
yeah.
Self-taught is good. It's really expand our attention span, increase our like concentration skill, something. But and we need to talk to people like human.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because we are not AI.
And I think like with you going over kind of your sums up and talking about kind of learning, it's going back to what Itza said earlier on, and it's about remembering those small steps as well as the big steps as well.
Yeah, and I remember your saying your habits of doing your daily journal. It's more like remembering the thing you need to fix and address the issues to feel like you came over one step to another step. Just kind of like, well,
Yeah.
you just made a great progress.
Yeah.
That's a good way to learn. Yeah, I'm quite happy about today's live stream. It seems like I learned a lot from you. Feel so
Amazing.
inspired. Do you have any other thing you want to summarize, want to say, or want to talk to the audience something?
I suppose that like my door's always open in terms of like if there's anybody out there who is very much like, yeah, I'm thinking of career changing, but I'm not sure even where to start or how do I even make my first step, like please do connect, please do reach out. And um, I'm always a believer that even if I can't help, I might have somebody in my network that I can connect you with and be like, oh, can you support that way? That's something yeah, I try and do, because you don't always have everybody's well, you can't always take everybody's perspective in terms of to give you an example, someone was asking me, oh, how did you do code first skills, the degree, but also while having looking after kids? And I was like, unfortunately, I can't respond to that because I don't have kids, but I was able to say, but I know I can introduce you to these two people who have gone through the code first skills degree while also raising a family, and they might be able to give you some advice or steps as well. So like, yeah, you're then able to point them in the right direction.
Yeah, find similarities between two
Yeah,
people or two
yeah.
groups. That's a great point to make. Yes, well, now is a good time for us to wrap up this session. But I'm so I feel so lucky to invite you to be as guest speaker again. I feel like, and this is my first time to do the session related to career pivot. I feel like we did a great job.
It's been an honor to be here, and thank you very much for having me.
Thank you.
Thank
Okay.
you.
See you next time.
See you next time.